sometimes individuals, sometimes enterprises, they always have the open source alternative, right? You also yourself are building an AWS alternative, an open source alternative. Meta is now working on open source alternatives for LLMs, competitive. They're competing with Anthropic and OpenAI. Although like these companies from a very higher level, they have the same value proposition. Their biggest maybe edge or the biggest difference is them being open source. Even right now for MongoDB, for example, they are kind of getting a little bit far away from being an open source, but now we are seeing MongoDB's open source alternatives. So for example, let's talk about Ubicloud a little bit. What is Ubicloud's edge other than being the open source alternative of AWS?
Right. Perfect question. So what Ubicloud is we say it's an open source alternative to AWS. And the way we approach that is one, of cost. Hey, that you can actually run Ubicloud, and we have a managed version of our product that costs anywhere 3x to up to 10x less than what you pay the large providers. So that's an immediate value prop. And another is portability, where, hey, you can take this and you can run it anywhere you like. And there have been variants of these themes in the past. Folks who are familiar with it will know, for example, something like OpenStack, where like it's, was born like many years ago. So some pieces of it have been around, but we have a very opinionated view on it, and where we built different, cloud products over the better part of last 15 years. Mm-hmm. My founder, Özgün, was previously at Amazon before kind of his team evolved to become essentially AWS. And Daniel, who was one of the core people who built Heroku Postgres. So we've been building cloud services for many years. And we say, okay, if we take a view, when we keep it simple, we eat our own dog food and have a managed service, it gives monetization at a very low cost. I think, so for a lot of folks in the audience who are startups, our main edge is why pay 3 times, to basic compute, which now is possible to use with something like Ubicloud.
Maybe from another perspective, JJ, let's assume that there's a company with the same IP, with the same value proposition. In one universe, this company is open source. In another one, it's closed source. Would your approach be different for these two companies in these universes?
I kind of think about this in a couple of different ways. If you have an open product, an open source product, and a proprietary product, and they are at feature parity, meaning they do both the same thing, they solve the same types of problems, and to the end user, what the value is that they get from the product is indistinguishable. Right, so it does the same things. Fundamentally, it's offering the same amount of value. The way that I look at the world is if people were fully educated about the implications of having a technology that you could control and that you can modify and that is essentially yours. Again, in the hypothetical universe where there's feature parity and both products do the exact same thing. I can't imagine a world where the consumer would not choose the open one as long as it's as easy to use and as seamless an experience in terms of how you adopt the technology, which, by the way, is totally independent of, are they feature parity? Do they do the same thing? So there's a big difference between do the products do the same thing and are the products easy to use and easy to adopt? So most of the open source technologies out there are really horrible to adopt. They're very painful. They have a bad user experience. They're really crappy at design. The founders don't know how to articulate them to the market, and they're not actually built in a way, almost instantaneous for the user to get value from the product. For most open source, you have to be a programmer and you have to write some code to, basically get value from the technology. And most most proprietary technologies, on the other hand, you click a button and you get value, or you swipe a credit card and you get value. And so that's kind of the fundamental distinction.